Imagine one morning, you wake up, make a cup of coffee, open the newspaper, and see the bold headline, 55 million US visas are being re-examined. Not 1,000, not 1 million, but a huge number equal to 1/6 of the US population. This isn't just international news, it's an earthquake right in your backyard. Because a visa is not just an entry ticket. They are the teacher for your child, the doctor who treats illnesses at the clinic near your home, and the company employee working on the project you use every day. Although the authorities say this is to protect security, but I ask you, security for whom, and what is the real cost? In this video, I will dissect with you the 6 layers of truth behind this visa story, from the easily visible surface to the consequences few dare to mention. And trust me, by the end of the video you'll realize, this isn't just their story, it's our story too. In just the first few months of the year, the US State Department announced that they had cancelled over 6,000 student visas. This number is not arbitrary. It's 4 times the amount from the same period last year. Among them, about 4,000 cases were due to law violations, familiar offences such as driving, to quarrel, and about 200-300 cases related to closed groups or supporting blacklisted organisations. Hearing it, it seems like they deserved it. But let's pause for a moment and try to ask, why did the government choose students as the first target among the 55 million visas that need to be reviewed? International students are the easiest group to grasp. Their records are contained within the SEVIS system, and all academic and travel activities are clearly stored. They're young, energetic, and constantly on social media. A careless tweet, a silly photo taken while drunk can become an excuse. An immigration officer only needs a few clicks to have enough evidence. So the visa was revoked. Simple, neat, like naming a row in Excel. But remember, behind every visa is not just an individual. It's also a whole chain of socio-economic links. When a student is expelled, the university loses tens of thousands of dollars in tuition fees. The innkeeper lost a tenant. The coffee shop near the school is missing one latte buyer each morning. The local community lost a piece. And this multiplies 1,000-fold when the number is no longer 1, but 6,000. You see, an administrative decision in Washington can shake an entire college town in Ohio. A university in Colorado even had to send an email warning international students, be careful what you post on Facebook, as it could determine your visa fate. It sounds funny, but also bitter. It turns out that in the 21st century, it's not your GPA, but a vague status that is the key to the American dream. Some people will say, that's right, you have to pay the price for breaking the law. But consider this. If we take 6,000 students as an example and then inflate it into a symbol of national security, isn't this also a tactic? One way to tell voters, we are cleaning up America's water. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Now, coming to America has become a nightmare for many students, as a silly tweet can cost more than Harvard tuition. So the real question isn't whether the students are at fault or not, but rather, why did the government choose them to open the event? Is it because it's easy to prove? Easy to communicate? And if students are just the starting point, who will be the next target? Let's hold on to that question, because right after this, we'll touch on another group, those who not only study, but also work, pay taxes, and drive the very American economy. Do you think people with good jobs, 6-figure IT engineers, or white-coat doctors will be safe from this wave of scrutiny? I'm sorry, not at all. They themselves are becoming the focus of the radar. The government is calling this campaign Project Firewall. It sounds like the name of an antivirus software, but in reality, it's a series of inspections, audits, and fee increases. Objective: to ensure that companies hiring H-1B workers do not cheat on wages or circumvent contract laws. It sounds reasonable. Who wouldn't want everything to be transparent? But in reality, it's like adding 10 more checkpoints to an already congested road. The result? Tech companies, which rely on thousands of H-1B engineers to write code and run servers, are now struggling to justify every dollar spent. A small business owner in Texas recounted that because the visas of 2 engineers were re-examined, the entire project was delayed by 6 months, and a lucrative, multi-million-dollar contract was lost. Just one example, but if you multiply it, you get the idea. Is the software on your phone slow to update? Who knows? Maybe it's because the engineer who wrote it just hit this new firewall. So why is the government tightening H-1B so strongly? It's simple. This is an easy card to play with the public. When the economy is struggling, the story of foreigners taking jobs is always captivating. The government just needs to show they are leveling the playing field, and that's enough for political points. And what about American companies losing manpower and the economy losing momentum? That's collateral damage. Imagine this. A truck is speeding down the highway, loaded with goods. Suddenly, someone erected a new fence right in front of it, forcing it to stop and inspect each package and weigh each box. The car still runs, but it's sluggish, slow, consumes a lot of gas, and takes a long time. That's what the American economy will look like when Project Firewall becomes a reality. What's noteworthy is that the name firewall was originally intended to prevent viruses and protect the system. But in this story, the virus hasn't necessarily disappeared, and the system itself is being overheated by an overloaded firewall. The question is the added safety worth the slowness, stagnation, and lack of manpower? Some people think so. But when you have to wait a whole month to fix a small bug in banking software, or when hospitals are short of on-call doctors, do you still think firewall is a great idea? And if even highly skilled people who directly contribute value to the economy are no longer secure, how much more vulnerable are ordinary salaried workers? You think visas are only checked during the interview at the consulate? No, those times are over. Now, a visa is like a surveillance camera right in your pocket. Always on, always watching. It's called continuous vetting, which can be roughly understood as continuous screening. This system connects data from customs, immigration, and many other agencies, tracking visa holders not only upon entry, but throughout their stay in the US. Not only police records or immigration files, but even what you post publicly on social media can be scrutinized. An old article, an inappropriate photo, suddenly becomes a major question mark in your profile. Essentially, this is an extension of the National Vetting Center, where every piece of small information is gathered into an early warning center. It sounds modern and high-tech, but just like installing cameras in every nook and cranny, it makes it impossible to breathe a sigh of relief. What is the actual impact? Visa holders must live in a constant state of unease. When I go to work, I worry about whether the company will report anything incorrectly. Driving on the road, I was on edge, afraid that a small mistake would be recorded and become a reason to review my record. Even Americans, fathers, mothers, husbands, and wives are caught in the spiral of worry. Because when a family member's visa is uncertain, the whole family is also shaken. A family in California shared that the father has a work visa and the children are US citizens. Every time he picked up his car keys, his daughter would feel uneasy. Would her father come home on time today? Or would there be a call with bad news? See, a small mistake from 10 years ago can become a shadow that haunts you forever. To be fair, continuous vetting was established in the name of protecting security. But many people feel as if they are carrying an invisible rope. They are held back wherever they go. And ironically, This so-called intelligent surveillance can easily make innocent people feel like they are being treated as suspects from the very beginning. What do you think? Is this really just to protect the people? Or is it also a political tool? A way to prove to voters that the government is taking strong action? And if every movement, every post, every action can become evidence, then ultimately, where is the line between protecting security and controlling everyday life? It sounds contradictory. A cancelled visa doesn't mean you have to leave the US immediately, but don't celebrate too soon. The story isn't that simple. According to immigration law, the Department of State has the right to cancel a visa at any time, even if the person is already in the country. However, if you still have legal status, for example, if you are studying on an F1 visa or working on an H-1B visa, you can still remain legally. Simply put, a visa is like the key to entering the house, while status is the right to stay in the house. You might be legally sitting in the living room, but the key has been revoked. It sounds logical, but the reality is ironic. Why? Because once your visa is cancelled, you won't be able to leave the US and return easily. You're stuck in a situation where you're neither able to leave nor at peace staying. They call it limbo, a state of limbo. You still go to work, still pay taxes, but you always live with a sense of unease. What will happen tomorrow? An Indian engineer from New Jersey once shared, "My visa was cancelled, but my employment contract is still valid. I'm still sitting in the office, still coding, still paying taxes. But I don't dare to go back and visit my parents in my hometown. I feel like I'm imprisoned in my own home." The paradox here is, the law allows you to stay, but reality makes you afraid to move. Visiting family? The risk is not reversible. Going on a business trip abroad? The round-trip ticket suddenly became a one-way ticket. You have the right to stay, but not the right to leave. It's like being kept in a luxury apartment, but the door is locked and you don't dare to go outside. On the government's side, they might say, this is a flexible measure that allows people to stay while also increasing control. But the actual feeling of those involved is far different. It's like you just got concert tickets, but with a condition. We might take the tickets back at any time, without notice. Try asking yourself, are you still interested in enjoying music? Ironically, this created a new layer of anxiety. Not just for visa holders, but also for their family members. The child is an American citizen and attends school normally. But my parents lived in a state of limbo. A remote administrative decision can turn an entire family into victims of uncertainty. The real question here is, what does the government want? Do you really want to drive everyone away? Or did you just want to create just enough fear so that everyone would obey and be cautious? And if the law, which is supposed to be the foundation of certainty, now becomes a tool that makes people feel uncertain, how long will our trust last? When the number of 55 million visas was released, the biggest question wasn't how many people would be cancelled, but rather, why announce it right now? Because in politics, timing is sometimes more important than data. If you look closely, you'll see this announcement comes right at the sprint stage of an election season. And what sells best during election season? It's not French fries, and it's not an iPhone. It's fear. Fear is the easiest commodity to package and the easiest to broadcast on television. And what's more impressive than a campaign that says, "We are watching 55 million people to keep you safe"? For many voters, it's a neat, memorable message. A tough, strong, uncompromising government. It's like a billboard on the highway, big letters, clear slogans, and striking images. Anyone who passes by has to pay attention, whether they read it carefully or not. But in reality, this is not just an administrative measure. This is also a media card. Every time the press mentions continuous vetting, every time the number of cancelled visas is announced, it's a plus for the image of the country's protectors. What about the price to pay? Ordinary people are caught in a psychological spiral. immigration means facing risk. Despite the fact that many of these 55 million are actually teachers, doctors, and colleagues who contribute to society daily, and the local economy, schools, small businesses, lost manpower, and customers. But in the political smokescreen, those details are often obscured. A small shop owner in Florida recounted, "I once hired a Brazilian student. It works harder than all 3 of my grandchildren combined. Now that the visa has been cancelled, the store has lost a golden hand." The story is that simple, but it reflects a reality. When politics uses visas as a tool, it's ordinary Americans who bear the consequences. Ironically, people often say that politics is the art of reason. But clearly, when politics enters, reason often has to exit. Instead, there were powerful slogans, huge numbers, and shocking newspaper headlines. The question for you, the person watching this video, is the screening of 55 million visas truly for security purposes, or just to protect the votes in the ballot box? And if that's the case, how will this affect ordinary Americans, those who aren't directly involved with visas, but are indirectly impacted in their daily lives? This isn't just an issue for immigrants. This is a matter of your wallet. Let's start with the numbers. International students spend over $30 billion each year on tuition, accommodation, supermarkets, and cafes. H-1B workers, engineers, doctors, and specialists contribute billions of dollars in federal and state taxes. In other words, they are an integral part of the American economic bloodstream. And when thousands of visas were cancelled, that blood flow was no longer as strong as before. It sounds far away, but in reality, it's knocking at the door right on your town's main street. For example, in a college town in Ohio, when the student group was forced to leave, the pizza parlor was empty, the laundromat lost revenue, the innkeeper had empty rooms, and even Walmart reported a decrease in shopping volume. That ripple effect spread quickly like a domino effect. An empty chair in the classroom can lead to a closed shop on the corner. For middle-class Americans who rarely concern themselves with visas, the impact is very specific. Service prices increase due to labor shortages. Hospitals have to extend waiting times because of a lack of doctors. Schools lack revenue to maintain programs. One morning, you go to the supermarket, realize there's no one at the vegetable counter, or find out the clinic near your house has appointments available only in 2 months. That's when you realize the visa story has stepped right into your life. Those who were originally shouting about protecting jobs for Americans could end up causing Americans themselves to lose their daily convenience. It's like building a wall to block the cold wind, but accidentally blocking the sunlight as well. An easy to visualize image. The American dream now begins with an empty shopping cart. No one is in line, and there's no one selling. The visa story is no longer a matter of paperwork, but has become a matter of the middle-class family's dinner. The question for all of us is this a victory for security, or is it essentially an economic failure wrapped in a political slogan? And if the price to pay is inconvenience, shortages, and a slowing economy, are we shooting ourselves in the foot? And from here, we move to an even more terrifying hypothetical scenario. What if not just a few thousand, but millions of the 55 million visas were cancelled? Let's try playing a game of imagination. What if only 10% of the 55 million visas are cancelled? Sounds small, right? But that's 5.5 million people, nearly the population of the state of Minnesota. One morning, an entire state disappeared from the US labor and consumer map. The school will lose hundreds of thousands of students. The lecture halls, which were usually noisy, suddenly became empty. The coffee shop next to the university, instead of people lining up to buy lattes, is probably just the owner standing around yawning now. Hospitals, already overburdened, suddenly lost thousands of skilled doctors and nurses. Retirees will have to wait an additional 2 or 3 months for an appointment. And the labour market is like a pickup truck with its front wheels removed. It can still roll, but it's wobbly and dangerous. Why is this scenario scary? Because it's not just about someone losing their documents. It's a shock that's rippling through the entire economy. Think of a domino effect. A student leaves, the dorm room is empty, shops lose customers, landlords lose income, banks lose borrowers, and the entire community is shaken. And now, multiply that by 5.5 million. This is the paradox. Policies are introduced in the name of protecting security, but the impact directly undermines the stability of the American middle class. People rarely care about visas until they realize their hospital bills are higher, grocery stores are understaffed, or flights are cancelled because pilots don't have enough hours. That's when they were startled. Wait a minute, what does this visa issue have to do with me? America often prides itself on being the land of opportunity, where you can start over. But imagine, with just one administrative decision, millions of people are forced to start over, somewhere else. And the opportunities they bring to America also evaporate. An economist once quipped, "If all immigrant labor disappeared tomorrow, America would be like a fine restaurant. Just diners, no chefs." The real question is, can America withstand that shock? Can the economy, already fragile after the pandemic, withstand another man-made earthquake? And if the decision makers were fully aware of the consequences, would they go all the way? Or would they just use the 55 million figure as a political card to intimidate and gain votes? The answer, perhaps, isn't on the desks in Washington, but right in the daily lives of you and me. We've just journeyed from cold numbers to political factors and hypothetical scenarios. And when it all comes together, the picture that emerges is no longer an outsider's affair. It's the story of the economy itself, of everyday life, and of the faith Americans place in the system. A visa, at first glance, is just a small piece of paper, but behind it lies tuition fees, taxes, dinner, and sometimes an entire dream. And now, 55 million such sheets of paper are being re-examined. The question I leave for you is America truly safer after this campaign? Or are we just making things difficult for ourselves? What do you think? Is this a necessary measure to protect security? Or is it a political card in the election season? Please leave a comment below. I would really like to hear the answer from you yourselves, the people who are living in this reality. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next analyses. Each interaction you make is the best way to help the channel grow and bring more insightful perspectives to the community. The content in this video is for analysis and commentary purposes only, and does not substitute for legal advice or political counsel. The aim is to provide information, spark debate, and encourage each person to form their own perspective. Thank you for following until